Welcome back. Stargirl Chapter 17 coming right at you. This is Mr. Daniels. We're going to get right into this one. This is a longer chapter. So let's get started. Find out what happens. Just 2 weeks before, I'd found out she knew my name, and now I was loopy with love. I was floating. I floated up the white light that washed my sheets and slept on the moon. In school, I was a yellow balloon, smiling and lazy, floating above the classrooms. I felt a faint tug on my string. Far below, Kevin was calling, "You're in love, dude!" I merely smiled and rolled over and drifted dreamily out a window. This state lasted until lunch, when suddenly I became self-conscious. I was certain that everyone in school knew. They would be waiting for me, turning as I entered the lunchroom, staring. I was uncomfortable in the spotlight, always had been. I was happy to stay behind the camera and let Kevin take the bows out front. So I hid for those 35 minutes in the gym equipment room. I sat atop a rolled up wrestling mat, kicked a volleyball against the opposite wall. I had nothing to eat. I had intended to buy, but I wasn't hungry. After school, we found each other. Not that we had to look. She took Cinnamon from her bag and put him on her shoulder. "Shake paws with Leo, Cinnamon." Cinnamon and I shook paws. "Do you believe in enchanted places?" she said. "You talking to me or the rat?" She smiled. She dazzled. "You." "I don't know," I said. "I never thought about it." "Well, I'm going to show you one." "What if I don't want to see it?" "You think you have a choice?" She grabbed my hand and almost pulled me off my feet, laughing out loud as we flew across the school fields, swinging hands for all the world to see. We walked for miles, past the business park, Mechatronics, the golf course, into the desert. "Look familiar?" she said. By now, Cinnamon was riding on my shoulder, and I was carrying the ukulele, strumming nonsense. "It's where we came that day," I said. She gave a snort. "We? I was coming out here. You were a half-mile behind." She poked my shoulder. "Sneaking after me." She poked again, hard this time, but her eyes were twinkling. "Stalking me." I acted horrified, hurt. "Stalking? I was not stalking. I was just lagging behind a little. That's all." "Following me." I shrugged. "So? Why?" I could feel a million reasons, but there were no words to express them. "I don't know. You liked me." I smiled. "You were smitten with me. You were speechless to behold my beauty. You'd never met anyone so fascinating. You thought of me every waking minute. You dreamed about me. You couldn't stand it. You couldn't let such wonderfulness out of your sight. You had to follow me." I turned to Cinnamon. He licked my nose. "Don't give yourself so much credit. It was your rat I was after." She laughed, and the desert sang. To the person who expects every desert to be barren and sand sun dunes, the Sonoran must come as a surprise. Not only are there no dunes, but there's no sand. At least not that sort of sand that you find at the beach. The ground does have a sandy color to it, or gray, but your feet won't sink in. It's hard. It's as if it's been tamped. And pebbly, and glinting with, what else? Mica. But you wouldn't notice the ground so much. What you notice are the saguaros. To the newcomer from the east, it's as simple as that. The desert seems to be brown wasteland of dry, prickly scrub whose only purpose is to serve as a setting for majestic saguaros. Then, little by little, the plants of the desert begin to identify themselves. The porcupine yucca, the beaver tail and prickly pear and barrel cacti, buckhorn and staghorn and devil's fingers, the tall, sky-reaching tendrils of the octilio. We walked a weaving line around the plant life, up and down, washes and gullies, the maricopas looming lavender in the distance. When you turned and ran that day, she said, I called after you. You did? I whispered. Whispered? Well, how'd you expect me to hear? I don't know, she said. I just thought you would. I strummed the uke. I squared my shoulders. Giving a rat a ride improves the posture. You're shy, aren't you? She said. What makes you think that? She laughed. Well, were you embarrassed when I pulled you long after school day? All those kids looking? Nah. Are you lying? Yeah. She laughed. I seemed to be good at making her laugh. I glanced back. The highway was out of sight. Do you have time? I said. Well, nobody has time, she said. Time cannot be owned. She threw out her arms and twirled till her multicolored skirt looked like a pinwheel taffy. The time is free! Free to everyone! Sorry I asked, I said. She hung her sunflower bag on a cactus arm and cartwheeled toward the Maricopas. Crazily, I felt like joining her. I told myself I couldn't because I was loaded down with a ukulele and a rat. I picked up her bag and followed. When she decided to walk like a normal human being again, I told her she was goofy. She stopped, turned to me, and bowed grandly. Thank you, good sir. Then she took my arm as if we were strolling down a promenade, and she said, Scream, Leo. Huh? Just throw your head back and let it all out. Scream your ears off. Nobody will hear you. Why would I want to do that? She turned her astonished eyes on me. Why wouldn't you? I pointed to Cinnamon. Well, if he screams first, then I will. And I changed the subject. Are we ever going to get to this enchanted place? I felt silly just saying the words. Just a little farther, she said. I humored her. So how do you know an enchanted place when you come to it? You'll see, she said. She squeezed my hand. Did you know there's a country with officially designated enchanted places? No, I said. Where could that be? Oz? Iceland. Imagine that. I'm ignoring your sarcasm. I think it would be neat if we had that here. You could be walking or riding along, and there'd be a nice stone marker with a brass plate. Enchanted site. U.S. Department of Interior. We'd litter it up, I said. She stared at me, her smile gone. Would we? I felt bad as if I had ruined something. Not really, I told her. Not if there's a don't be a litter bug sign. A minute later, we stopped. We're here. I looked around. The place couldn't have been more ordinary. The only notable presence was a tall, debilitated saguaro, a bundle of sticks, and worse shaped than Archie's Signor. The rest was gray scrub and tumbleweed, and a few prickly pears. I thought it might look different, I said. Special? Scenic? Yeah, I guess. Well, it's a different kind of scenery, she said. Shoes off. We pulled off our shoes. Sit. We sat, legs crossed. Cinnamon scampered down my arm and onto the ground. Stargirl shrieked, Stop! She scooped up the rat and put him in her bag. Owls, hawks, snakes. He'd make a tasty meal. So, I said, when does the enchantment start? We were sitting side by side, facing the mountains. It started when the earth was born. Her eyes were closed. Her face was golden in the setting sun. It never stops. It is always. It's just here. So what do we do? She smiled. That's the secret. She cupped her hands and rested on her lap. We do nothing, or as close to nothing as we can. Her face turned slowly toward me, though her eyes remained closed. Have you ever done nothing? I laughed. My mother thinks I do it all the time. Don't tell her I said so, but your mother is wrong. She turned her back to the sun. It's really not hard to do nothing totally, even just sitting here like this. Our bodies are churning. Our minds are chattering. There's a whole commotion going on inside us. That's bad? I said. Well, that's bad if we want to know what's going on the outside of ourselves. Do we have to have our eyes and ears for that? She nodded. They're okay most of the time, but sometimes they just get in the way. The earth is speaking to us, but we can't hear because of all the racket our senses are making. Sometimes we need to erase them, erase our senses. Then maybe the earth will touch us, the universe will speak, the stars will whisper. The sun was glowing orange now, clipping the mountains' purple crests. How do I become this nothing? I'm not sure, she said. There's no one to answer that. You'll have to find your own way. Sometimes I try to erase myself. I imagine a big pink soft soap eraser, and it's going back and forth, and it starts down at my toes, back and forth, and then they go poof, and my toes are gone, and then my feet, and then my ankles. But that's the easy part. The hard part is erasing my senses, my eyes, my ears, my nose, my tongue. At last, it goes to my brain, my thoughts, memories, all the voices inside my head. That's the hardest, erasing my thoughts. She chuckled faintly. My pumpkin. And then, if I've done a good job, I'm erased. I'm gone. I'm nothing. And then the world is free to flow into me like water into an empty bowl. And, I said, and I see, I hear, but not with my eyes and ears. I'm not outside my world anymore, and I'm not really inside it either. The thing is, there's no difference anymore between me and the universe. The boundary's gone. I am it, and it isn't me. I am a stone, a cactus thorn. I am rain. She smiled dreamily. I like that most of all, being rain. Am I, for the most part, the first one you brought out here? She didn't answer. She faced the mountains, bathed in sun syrup. Her face is still as peaceful as I've ever seen a face. Stargirl? Shh! That was the last sound either of us made for a long time. We sat side by side, lotus style, facing west. I closed my eyes. I tried to be perfectly still and promptly found out that she was right. I could immobilize my arms and legs, but inside me was a rush hour in downtown Phoenix. I'd never been so aware of my breath and my heartbeat, not to mention other assorted grumblings and gurglings. In my head, it just wouldn't close down. Every question, every stray thought for miles and miles around came wandering into my brain, sniffing out, scratching at my attention. But I tried. I tried the eraser, but it wouldn't even wipe out the first toe. I tried to imagine I was sawdust blowing away with the wind. I swallowed by a whale, dissolving away like Alka-Seltzer. Nothing worked. I cannot make myself disappear. I peeked. I knew I wasn't supposed to, but I did. Clearly, she had erased herself. She was gone. She was serenity. Her lips faintly smiling, her golden skin, the glowing threads of her hair. She seemed to have been dipped in sunlight and set here to dry. I felt a pang of jealousy that she could be sitting next to me and not know it. That she could somehow be the most wonderful and I could not be there too. Then I saw the rat. He had crawled out of the bag. He was sitting on it as much as we were. His front paws, I kept thinking them as tiny hands. They were so human-like, dancing before him. He too was not moving. He too was facing the sunset. His pelt the color of a new penny. His peppercorn eyes were fully open.